guys, welcome to a tour of my bookshelf. I wanted to do this in a way that did not involve me crawling around the floor dragging a camera behind me. So what I did is I went ahead and I took pictures of each portion of my bookshelf, and I'll be showing those here. Um, Here's an overall picture of my bookshelf. My main bookshelf I'll be going through is the one directly behind me. I used to have probably 6 bookshelves throughout the house, like a seriously huge number of books. I got rid of most of those because I just went through them all, and like people in my family weren't going to read them, and I knew I wasn't going to reread them, so I didn't see any reason to keep them. So we are mostly just consolidated, me and my family, to this bookshelf. My son does have a separate bookshelf in his room, which I will not be going through because those are his books. The only other thing I will be going through is I have an armoire in my bedroom where I put the books I haven't read yet. So I will go through some of those. By and large, what I have in this bookshelf in my office is manga and graphic novels because we tend to keep those while the series are still running, and a lot of people in my family like to reread those series, not just me. Both my son and husband will come back and reread manga series and graphic novel series. So with that being said, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start over on the side and work my way over. I'll be showing the pictures of the shelves over here again, like I said. So the very first set of shelves you can see, and I'm cheating because I'm looking at these pictures on my other phone and recording this on my different phone. So if I'm looking down, I'm just looking to see what I have here. All right, so the first, there's a book laying across the top. That's The Golden Age. It's a graphic novel. A good graphic novel. I liked it a lot. It's very like epic fantasy-esque. Next to that, when you start out on the top shelf, I have the Stuff of Legend series, which is a really magnificent, like kind of very dark Toy Story type of graphic novel series about some toys who go to fight the boogeyman to save their child. It's definitely more scary and a little bit more adult than like a Toy Story type of thing, but very, very good. I believe it was never finished, so I only have the first. I think there's 4 books there. Following that, next to that is the Mouse Guard series. Again, this is a rather famous fantasy graphic novel series. We have the series as well as the Black Axe, and there's another like collection of like short stories for the Mouse Guard. So if you are like the anthropomorphic fantasy type of thing, it's a very good fantasy graphic novel series. And then next to that, I have the Rust collection by Royd and Lepp, and this is a collection that really doesn't have much for words in it. It's all pictures, and it's, well, there's some words, but it's about a robot boy. As you find out, it's in like future Earth, and it's about a robot boy who, I think initially he doesn't know he's a robot, and then he finds out he's a robot. He was part of a fighting force. Anyways, he ends up living with this family on a farm. Just very beautiful. It's done in these sepia tones. It's a really interesting story, and I love how the pictures tell the story. All right, if you go down to the bottom shelf, that is the full Claymore manga series. So again, Claymore is a fantasy series about young women who take parts of these yokai demon in them to become super fierce fighters to protect humanity from the yokai demons. So there's a good anime for that as well, but I've read the series, my husband's read it a couple times, my son is reading it right now, so we keep it around because everybody's reading it. All right, I'm going to go to the next set of shelves here. So the next set of shelves, there's only, in the initial picture, maybe you noticed, there's only books on the top shelf. That's because the bottom shelf is there's a cat door there. We have a kitten that loves to sleep with us, a cat now, I guess, and he gets very upset if he can't, and he is actually one of the only cats we've ever had that comes in and just sleeps through the night and then gets up in the morning and leaves. So the cat door is there so he can get in and out of the bedroom, and it is cued to like his microchip so the other cats can't get in because the other cats like to fight on our bed at night, and we don't appreciate that. So yes, this cat is spoiled, but that is why the bottom shelf is empty. On the top shelf, that's mostly Vinland Saga. Vinland Saga is an absolutely amazing epic fantasy with just incredibly detailed, beautiful drawing. If you like historical fantasy, definitely check out Vinland Saga. It is seriously one of my favorite manga series ever. Laying on top of that is a graphic novel called Cursed Pirate Girl. This one is just really interesting, like old style, elaborate plate type drawing. And I keep it because I just like to pick it up and look at it every once in a while. And then on top of that, I have two Lady Mechanica graphic novels. I did at one point, I think it was like the third or fourth book in the series. It was getting a little bit slow for me, and so I decided to go ahead and get rid of it. And then later on, I was like, oh, I wish I had got rid of those, so I've been keeping them again. And then on top of that, I believe is it's a volume of Pretty Deadly, which is kind of a Western fantasy graphic novel. And then on top of that is volume 10 of East of West. I think you guys heard when I did my Stacking the Shelves, I mentioned that I could not get volume 10 from the library. My son and I read the rest of the series from the library, and I waited for like 4 months for the volume 10 of East to West, and so I finally bought it. And then on top of that is Junji Ito's Rimina, which I probably won't keep because I really didn't like it that much. I don't know. I think it's just there because I put it there. All right. So going on to the next set of shelves. I'm getting myself confused here. Yeah, the next set of shelves. So we're the third one in. On the top one, they're actually stacked too deep in this one. And on the top one, you have the full Bone series, which again is a middle grade fantasy graphic novel series. Very, very good for all ages if you haven't read it. Next to that is the Full Metal Alchemist manga series, and it's the omnibus collections. So really love that. And then the bottom shelf is the full, so far, Berserk manga series, which is maybe never going to be finished at this point because the author releases them so infrequently. But there are like 39 volumes of that or something. And that is a very, very adult fantasy manga series. And then if you take off the volumes on the top shelf, behind that is the Berserk, I think it's called the deluxe editions or whatever. They're the leather bound copies of that that are in the full format size that is published in the magazine in Japan where Berserk is published. So they're actually in the big format. And they're beautiful. I don't know why they're in the back. They're just in the back. My husband, I like the Berserks. My husband is a gigantic Berserk fan. You can tell I've got Berserk, and then I've got Gungrave over there and stuff like that. But anyways, so huge Berserk fan. He's got all of those. All right, so if we go over to the next set of shelves, again, these are also stacked too deep on each shelf. On the top shelf, you have the Witch Hat 8-layer series, which I know I've talked about and reviewed a ton. This is another one of my favorite manga series right now. It's a fantasy series that's appropriate for probably middle grade and older, about witches and magic. And again, just very beautiful drawing style. Next to that is the Black Clover manga series, the first 5 volumes of it. I ended up not liking this a lot because the female characters are portrayed very, they're either dumb or they're super sexy. There's like no in between. I just didn't like it. And my son had been reading it, and he continued to read it a little bit. I think I stopped at volume 4 or something, and he continued to read it. And then he decided he didn't really want to continue it. So I probably should get rid of those. I'm not real sure why they're still there. He was kind of on the fence about whether or not he was going to do it. So, they're still there. And the next to that is The Bride's Story. This is a really beautifully drawn manga that's kind of like a day in the life historical manga. I only have the first 4 volumes, and the reason for that is they're pretty expensive to buy. And I just found them, like, they were nice, but they're kind of boring, I mean, they're beautiful to look at. The story's kind of intriguing, but it's just kind of a day in the life thing, and it wasn't really 100% for me. So I keep them because I like to go back and look at them, but I just don't really, I don't really want to buy more of them. The shelf below, I did not take a picture of what was behind it because that is my full Black Butler collection. And yes, I do go back and reread this one. And then next to that is the Girl from the Other Side manga collection. So of course, Black Butler is kind of a Victorian paranormal type of manga series about a young boy who binds a demon to him. And The Girl from the Other Side, I've talked about a lot because I love it. So that series is on, both series are ongoing. I guess Black Butler just has a lot more volumes than The Girl from the Other Side. And I continue to read them. And generally, if I'm reading a manga series, as I said, I keep all the volumes so I can go back and reread them. All right, so if you take off the books on the top shelf, I'm trying to see, yep. So what's behind Witch Hat 8 Lear and Black Clover and The Bride Story is the Full Flight collection by Kazuki Bushi. Again, we're a huge fan, and next to that is Amulet. So we're a huge fan of Kazuki Bushi in this household. Me and my son love him. And so we have the Full Flight collection, which my son often goes back and rereads, and then Amulet, which he rereads multiple times a year. I also reread Amulet. I think there's one more volume in that. Excuse me. So we're really excited for that to tie up. And then next to that is the full Planetus Omnibus collection. Again, by the guy who writes Vinland Saga. It wasn't quite as good. It's not quite as good as Vinland Saga. It's a sci-fi, like, kind of day in the life of space thing. It was good. I kept it because my husband read it and liked it, and my son would like to read it someday, but it's not quite appropriate for him yet. All right, and then we're on to the last two shelves, and I got to figure out where I put those on here. All right, so the last section, the last two shelves that are under the Gungrave poster over here. These two are a real hodgepodge of things. They're just books that I liked that I didn't want to get rid of, or they're signed. So the first one on there is The Queen of Sorrows by Sarah Beth Durst. This is a book in the Queens of Rinthia series. It's signed personally to me because she offered to send it to me for review. I really like the book. I don't know if I'll reread it, but it does have like a personal signature to me, which is cool, so I keep it. All You Need Is Kill is a really good manga series. There was a movie made from that with, I forget the actor's name because I don't know, I'm not good with names. Very good manga, sci-fi book. It's like a self-contained story. Nimona, another graphic novel. Nimona is very popular. Everybody knows what that is. The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman, one of my favorites. I did have two copies of the Gilded Ones. One is an ARC I got for review, and the other one is one I got from Owlcrate that is a limited edition signed. I have not opened yet, so I have both of them right now, and I really love that book, so I'm trying to decide if I want to just keep them both or what. I do have the SAS Survival Handbook. I don't know, I got this a while ago. I thought it'd be cool to learn more survival skills, and I have not read it. Next to that is Coraline, another favorite gaming book for me, and next to that is Instructions, which is another Neil Gaiman book that I really, really loved. We read this to my son a ton when he was a lot younger, and so I keep it for kind of sentimental reasons. Fortunately, The Milk is another Gaiman one that I read with my son that I keep kind of for sentimental. And The Frost Giants is, I believe, the last Neil Gaiman book on this shelf, which I just love that book, so I keep it, and it's a beautiful book as well. I also have on here Where the Mountains Meet the Moon, and that is a very good middle grade, like folklorish Asian themed novel, and I kept it just because it was so beautiful and I loved it so much, and I really want to reread it one day. And then the two books next to that are probably some of the oldest in my house, and that is, I can't even, The Blue Sword and, oh, that's The Outlaws of Sherwood. Hero and the Crown should be in there somewhere, but anyways, I was a huge, like, Rob McKinley was one of the first authors I read after Tolkien, fantasy authors, so I keep her books, and I have read them over and over and over, and I might have actually had to get rid of The Hero and the Crown because I read it so much it actually fell apart, and I had like taped it multiple times. But that trilogy, The Outlaw, well, it's not really a trilogy, but those three books, The Blue Sword is a prequel to Hero and the Crown, and then Outlaws of Sherwood, I read over and over and over and over again. So again, keep them for sentimental reasons. The Blue Sword and Hero and the Crown I actually got from the library when I used to go volunteer there when I was a preteen. And so it's signed by the librarian I volunteered for, which is kind of goofy, but you know, I really like them, so I keep them. On the bottom shelf, that Coliseum box is actually the puzzle that, I don't know, I think I took it down. It's a 3D Coliseum puzzle. We have it sitting up on the shelf normally, but I took it down so I could take pictures of the books. Next to that, we have The Night Before Christmas. It's kind of a family tradition to read that story every night before Christmas. I don't think we did it this year because my son's getting kind of old, but it was kind of a thing. We'd go over to my aunt and uncle's house for Christmas Eve and then come home and read that book and do cookies for Santa and go to bed. So we still have that. Um, The Dwindling Party. Oh my gosh, I love this book, and it is actually one of those pop-up books about a party of people who go to this house and mysteriously disappear one by one. It is an Edward Gorey story, and I was a gigantic fan of him when I was in like middle school and high school. And that book I need to keep. It's actually worth a ton of money. Um, it is a little bit beat up because it's been well loved, but yeah, I keep it because I love it. The Encyclopedia of Early Earth is next to that, and that is a really, really interesting book, and I have read the whole thing. It's basically an encyclopedia of early Earth, but done in graphic novel format. Really well done, and definitely recommend it, especially if you have kids that are interested in history and you're interested in early history. Very good. Um, Next to that is The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is the Nightmare Before Christmas picture book that we also usually read during Christmas time. Although, again, this tradition has dwindled a little bit with my son getting older. Um, Next to that is What If by Randall Munroe. This is just kind of a fun read. I don't know if anybody, I think my husband maybe has read the whole thing because he's a huge Randall Munroe thing, but it's one we kind of take out and read parts of off and on. Then you have Legendborn, and I am keeping that. I like that a lot. I don't think I like loved it as much as a lot of people did, but it was a very good book, and I plan to continue the series. So I am going to go ahead and keep that because I think it's one I might reread. And next to that is Call Down the Hawk by Maggie Stiefvater. Again, first book in a series that I am reading, so I am going to go ahead and keep that one because I adored that book and I would love to reread it. And then we have Network Effect by Martha Wells. I love the Murderbot series, and I'm trying to get my husband to read it. So I did get the first, I had originally got these all from the library, and I did get the first book for ebook for him to read. And yeah, I just went ahead and bought Network Effect because I think it's one I'm going to read, my husband will read, eventually my son will read. So you'll see another cellophane wrapped book there, Among the Beasts and Briars by Poston. This one I did get for review as ebook, so I've already read it, but this is a limited edition signed copy, and honestly, it's absolutely beautiful. It's got like maroon colored edging on the pages, and it's signed by the author, so I am keeping it. And then next to that is kind of a little bit of an oddity, and this is Waking the Moon by Elizabeth Hand. This book was just so different from anything I had ever read when I read it when I was in high school. I just needed to keep it. I have reread it multiple times, and I don't know why I'm so fascinated by it, but I am. So those are all the books that are like keepers like here on this bookshelf. And then we'll go into my armoire. There's really not a lot here that I can go through because most of my books are ebooks right now. But what you'll see in here is there's some memorabilia keepsakes. If you start on the left-hand side, that's my son's like baby journal. And then the things that are standing up like wrapped in cellophane, that's the Dresden Files comic book series by issue. And then there's some random stuff people gave us. And then you'll see Talon and Rogue, which I started to read Talon and I didn't really like it, so I stopped. But then my son started reading it again, so I thought I'd go back maybe and read it at some point. So those are in there. I did start getting the Hellsing Ultimate Edition because if my husband is insane about Berserk, I absolutely love Hellsing. I think it's amazing. And they have been releasing the Ultimate Editions of those. So I asked for that for, I think it was like Valentine's Day or something, and that's what I got. I can't. Okay, next that is the Wings of Fire graphic novel, which my son is a big fan of. And I kind of just read them to keep, I mean, I don't hate them, I don't love them, I just read them to have something to read, and it's quick because it's a graphic novel. And then you have Night Sky Mine by Melissa Scott. That is a cyberpunk novel that I'm going to try reading. I wanted to read a couple of Melissa Scott's books. You'll see another one of those on this shelf. And then I did finally get Bridge of Souls by Victoria Schwab. I'm so excited to read that. I do have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue from the library. I actually don't think I'm going to read that before it's due. So I requested it as an ebook from the library instead, just because we're going to be traveling for spring break and I'd like to have it on my Kindle instead. I have These Violent Delights, which I got from an Out Crate and I really, really want to read, and that is another signed edition. I have Lore, which I really, really want to read, and that is another signed edition. I have The Lie Tree by Frances Harden, and I realize I've been saying her last name wrong because I heard somebody say that. And then 2 more volumes of Monstrous, volumes 4 and 5, which are the ones I have not read. I've been rereading that, so I just finished volume 3 this last weekend, and I'll be reading 4 or 5 shortly. The Land of Big Numbers, which is one I got from the Amazon Vibe program for review, and this is supposed to be like a humorous explanation of China and its history, and I've kind of been fascinated about China, so I got that. And then Trouble and Her Friends, again by Melissa Scott. So that is that shelf. You will notice there's like a stack of papers at the end. Those are all the little printouts I show you in stacking the shelves that I lay there, so I know what ebooks I have to read. And then you'll notice there's a couple paper ones like laying in front of the electric guitar book, which I'm not even sure why that's in there. And those are the things I am reading right now. And in between, like Talon and the Dresden Files, I did mention, those are all like journals and like when we used to play video games where things were harder, you had to take a lot of notes. Like there's, I think, Fantasy Star notes in there and Myst game notes and stuff like that. So that's what's all that stuff. So that is that shelf, and that is my final shelf. And this is kind of long, and I apologize for that. But I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, let me know. Those are all the books we have in the house right now, excluding my son's bookshelf, which I was not going to go through because who knows and who cares. I mean, he's got like Wings of Fire and stuff in there, but also a lot of picture books and stuff too. So not that there's anything wrong with picture books. I just don't think we need to go through them all. Yeah. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will talk to you on, I might not talk to you Saturday for Stacking the Shelves. It depends on if I get back from our trip in time and have enough time to record something, but I'm going to make an effort to do so. So, all right. Talk to you guys later. Hope you have a great week of reading and a great week in general, and enjoy the warm weather, and I will see you later. Bye.